coming quickly up on here because I decided I wanted to do a vlog about me reading The Great Gatsby, or better, I'm not actually reading it, I'm listening to it on audiobook, performed by Jake Gyllenhaal. And funnily enough, like, I'm on the 7th chapter. I didn't start this like in the beginning, I should have, but I didn't think about it. And spontaneously I decided that I want to do a reading vlog of me reading classics, starting with The Great Gatsby. Saying that I'm enjoying it is an understatement. It's a book. It is what it is, you know? Everyone knows the story of The Great Gatsby, has seen the movie or maybe even read the book. I don't know, it's just not my thing. I wouldn't buy a physical copy, because if you have watched my other video about like my book haul, about the books that I bought in the last couple of months, then it's always books that I have enjoyed really much, or that I'm very excited to read because I know I will enjoy them. This one is just like, meh. It's okay, it's there, you know, it exists. I don't know. It's a story about this mysterious rich guy in his rich guy mansion, throwing parties but not really getting close to anyone. But there's this girl, Daisy, and they probably had an affair or something some years back, whatever, and some little drama here and there. But we also, like, the story is told by this other guy whose name I forgot because I really don't care about the characters, and I don't know, also in the movie I didn't care about him. He was just like the narrator, but he's there living the thing, so it's just like we're reading his diary. Yeah. And it's, I don't know, kind of awkward at some parts, because we're like, for example, at some parts there was some drama going on, like someone crashed a car and everyone was super drunk and everything, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then the guy in the book was like, yeah, but I wasn't interested anymore and then I left. And I was like, bitch, that's the most interesting thing that has happened so far. So, but yeah. The thing is, the interesting thing about this book is that you get an insight about the mentality, about the things going on in the 20s, in the 1920s, and so it's exactly 100 years ago, basically. I don't even know if exactly, but you know, it's interesting in that way. But would I like recommend it? I mean, it's a classic, so probably yeah. If you want to read classics, if you're into that type of story, it's pretty short. It's like 4 hours on Audible. I don't know. It's just, it's okay. I mean, I'm glad I started this challenge with this book because it's really short. But yeah, it's not my favorite. It won't be on like my top 5. I don't know if I'm gonna read 5 classics, but if I do, it's not gonna be my top. It's gonna be 5 out of 5 or something like that. I hope so. I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to read like shitty ass classics. I'm sorry. Like, can classics be shitty? In my opinion, they can. Like, you don't have to like a book just because it's a classic. It doesn't have to be good for you. And yeah, so there's that. So I will update you when I'm done listening to it, and hopefully I have a little bit more insight, because up until now, I don't know, not much has happened in my opinion. Like, we're 7 chapters in, and all that has happened is he went on a party and has been trying to figure this Gatsby guy out. So I'm not done yet. I am still in chapter 7, and shit has really gone south. Like, everything happened in this last chapter. Like, I'm not even done with chapter 7 yet, but what the fuck? Like, everything unraveled so quickly. Like, that was an escalation. It's like immediately now Gatsby confessed that he has been having a kind of relationship with Daisy, that they were in love like 5 years ago. They didn't see each other for the 5 years, but they still continued loving each other. Like, so sure of so sure of himself. And also this guy Tom, who is her spouse, such a prick. I've always hated him through this book, but they're both so toxic. Like gaslighting her or each other, like talking for her, like, yeah, she's never loved you and you don't know what you're talking about. She doesn't know what she's talking about. I know that she loves me. What the fuck? No, you don't. Like, and if they ask her, they also like gaslight her into saying what they want to hear respectively. And so toxic, both of them. Like, leave both of them and just live your own life, girl. Like, what the fuck? That's not worth it. And so, yeah, I hate both of them, and I hope that she leaves both of them, but it's the 20s, so probably she won't, and she will keep being married to this guy Tom, and he will probably hit her or something. And yeah, so hello, I just finished listening to The Great Gatsby, and it was underwhelming, like a lot. I didn't like it. It was just, for me, so boring, and I really didn't care for any of the characters, like any of them. I just found them all to be snob and boring rich people. Like, okay, the book was written in the 20s or something like that, and so obviously the mentality, or in general their problems, weren't the same as it might be now. But still, you know, I would have been way more interested in, I don't know, just a regular old novel about maybe this guy, the protagonist, whatever his name was, going to the big city and living there, and I don't know, the struggles he went through as a working class person, or whatever he was doing there. And yeah, but just the struggles of all these people, like, they didn't do anything. For the most part of the book, they were just partying, day drinking, whining about non-existent problems, cheating on each other. Like, I don't care. Like, I literally do not care about y'all's life. And yeah, then in the end, like, people died. Nobody went to Gatsby's funeral. If that's a spoiler to you, I don't know. I mean, that book has been out for 100 years now, possibly. So, well, and yeah, no, it's just, I didn't like it. I know it's a classic and everything, but I just really did not find this to be interesting or worth my time in any way. I'm glad it was just 4 hours and not like 15 hours of just listening to some rich people whine about their problems. And so yeah, I just googled again, like, what is it even about, because I didn't want to sound like uninformed, or like I just didn't pay attention and that's why I didn't like it, or I didn't get any of the, you know, intricate storylines or whatever. No. It basically tells the tragic story of self-made millionaire Jay Gatsby and how he met this girl, Daisy, who was a rich girl, and so he was out of her league when they first met, and then he, accumulating his wealth, finally was able to be on her level in some way. But then she was married, so that drama. But, you know, they started that story about like how they met and everything in chapter 7 of 9 chapters. So I don't know, before that everything was just, nothing was happening basically, or nothing interesting was happening. And so I don't know, it's just kind of, you know, we like it, we consider it a classic because it's part of, oh wait a minute, because it's part of our pop culture, because we have good memories with the movie or whatever, we find it to be like intriguing, the roaring 20s and stuff like that. But really, there are way better stories about like love between like social statuses, social classes, whatever, and how that plays out, or different backgrounds and so on. So this was just how we would say in Chile, ni chicha ni limonada. It's nothing, it's not half, and it's not a whole thing. It's like, what is this, you know? Now, on to the next book. I just wanted to hop on here and give you a little update. I'm currently listening to Frankenstein by Mary Shelley on audio, on Audible. And so far, like, I started today in the morning, and I had class in the middle of the day, and still I'm already more than halfway through. Like, this book is good. I was really discouraged by The Great Gatsby. I thought, like, okay, classics are boring as fuck. But this book, Frankenstein, is really good. I really love it. I love the exquisite language. I love the characters. I love the depth that Mary Shelley gave Frankenstein's monster. And yeah, it really makes you think, like, who is really the monster? And so yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And I will give you an update when I'm probably done, or when something like major happens that I need to share with you. But up until now, it's really good. I'm really enjoying it. I mean, when have I ever listened to an audiobook up until like 60% in one day? That's impressive. So good job, Mary Shelley. Good morning. A couple of days passed, but I have finished listening to Frankenstein, and I really loved it. I mean, it was kind of tragic, and I felt like a little bit repetitive in some parts, in the way that our main character, like Frankenstein, was really, I don't know, just always talking about how miserable he was for creating this monster, this abominable creation. And yeah, so always fearful, but in the end he was kind of right to be fearful about the monster, because he couldn't understand it, and he couldn't like grasp what he was planning on doing, and also he was threatened by the monster. But I don't want to spoil the book entirely. So also the monster as a persona per se was really interesting to read about, or to listen about in my case, because he had more depth than we would expect. Like, the stories we know, like, I mean, I haven't watched any movie adaptations of Frankenstein. I mean, I knew the basics of the story already, because it's such a big masterpiece. Like, everyone knows it, everyone knows the gist of the story, but it had like surprisingly more depth than I would have thought. And it was really interesting, because you could really also make points about like society, or the societal standards, and how we perceive people just by looking at them, and have these preconceptions about their character based on how they look to us, and if they fit like the societal beauty standards or not, or whatever. And that was really interesting to listen about. And yeah, I loved it so much that I bought a copy. Wait a second, I'm gonna grab it. I bought a copy of the book, and yeah, so I can read it once again and annotate everything that I loved about it. And yeah, it was really, really a good listen. Like, this was chef's kiss. Way better than The Great Gatsby. I'm so happy that I liked this book as much as I did, because I was really frustrated after Gatsby. I was like, oh my god, if every classic is like this, then damn, I'm not gonna do this. But yeah, 2 down, 3 more to go. Hi, so I'm at university right now, so I gotta make this quick. I don't know why, but I felt the need to talk about this. So I'm listening to Dracula, and I'm kind of confused at the moment, because in the first chapters we were following, like, in a diary type of writing, the main character, or not the main character, but the one who first got to encounter Dracula. But then in the like 5th chapter we changed to a Jane Austen type of book. I don't know. We started following around like his fiancée and like her friend. They were writing letters to each other, and what the fuck? You know, they're telling each other like futile things. More so the friend, and she's also like talking so much about like some random guys and mimicking their accents and stuff like that. So I don't know what's going on, but we changed from like Dracula, the story, like horror and stuff like that, gothic, very, you know, scary stuff, into like a Jane Austen novel. Like, sir, Mr. Bram Stoker, what the fuck is going on? But yeah, I have to leave you now. I will update you later. I really had to do this right now because I was just listening to it and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Most of the time I didn't even understand what she was talking about because she was talking in like different accents and I was like, what? But okay.
None of the others had met the Count at all at close quarters, and when I had seen him, he was either in the fasting stage of his existence in his rooms, or when he was gorged with fresh blood in a ruined building open to the air.
Hi, so let me update you real quick. I am still listening to Dracula, and I wanted to update you because now it is making sense why it changed, like why the narrative changed from talking about Jonathan, so the first main character, to like his fiance's friend, Lucy is her name. Because in the beginning I was like, why are we talking about this? So she was talking about her suitors and like her marriage proposals and stuff like that, and it's basically to get to know her, because now she's also kind of a main character in the book, in the story, and it's all kind of coming together. We still don't know what is happening to her. I mean, we do know because we know the story, we know what we're reading, but in general, it's mysterious circumstances. So that is interesting to know, like a little bit about her previous life, and how things got worse and worse, like from one day to the other, and how that has anything to do with anything we heard before. And yeah, so it's really interesting. I mean, maybe let me real quick. Okay. Maybe I just, in the beginning, like when it first changed POVs, I didn't like get it, or I was kind of confused because I was really into the other story and was really following that. And now that when they changed the POV, I was like, who is that and why are we like talking about her? Like, why do we care? But now, like a good part into the story, or at least, I don't know, maybe if her story is ending, I'm invested. I'm like, yeah, that's good. I mean, this book up until now, it's a solid 4-star. I really like it. I don't like it as much as Frankenstein because, I don't know, it kind of unfolds a little bit slower, or it's longer in general. Instead, Frankenstein was just so concise in its story, you know? It was coherent, it was concise, it was beautifully written, and you could really feel the characters even though you didn't know that much before. Yeah, you did, because actually Frankenstein, the story begins at his childhood, so we actually do follow the character from his childhood until like the end. And so yeah, that was done very beautifully because we didn't spend 300 pages doing that. Yeah, so I'm really excited to know where the story continues, how that continues. We also have some other characters that are pretty important in the story. I don't know if those are the real main characters or what is going on with them, like a doctor, I don't remember his name, and some other people. But let's see. I don't want to spoil it on the one hand. I don't want to tell you like, oh, this and that is happening, because maybe you want to read it too or listen to it. But on the other hand, this book has been out so long, and there have been so many movie adaptations in general about Dracula or about like any other vampires that are based on this first vampire story. So there's nothing to spoil really. It's pop culture. It's you just know it. It's common knowledge. But yeah, the nitty-gritty maybe. And yeah, just maybe to tell you that the main character that we thought was dying or whatever was just pretty injured and is fine in a hospital in Romania. And hey, I literally just finished listening to Dracula, and oh behold, I did it again. I wasn't even done listening to it yet, and I already was like, yeah, I really love this book too. I don't know. I gave it 4.75 stars, but I will go in further detail later on at the end of the video. But I loved this book. Dare I say a little less than Frankenstein? I think so, maybe because the story of Frankenstein just evolved a little bit quicker and it was just a quick read. Like, I was able to listen to this and yeah, okay, it took me some days, but because I had other things to do and I hadn't the time to listen to all of it in one sitting. But if I had the time, I would have done it. It was really like quick lived. It really wasn't like hard to read or hard to understand. The only thing that I really love more about Dracula's story is that I liked the characters more. I mean, I liked Frankenstein's characters as well, like I could empathize with them and stuff like that, but with the Dracula's characters, like with Mina and Lucy and her husband, when Mina's husband, Jonathan, I could just empathize more. I just liked them more. They were a little bit more fleshed out, if you will. And yeah, so I really enjoyed that part of the book more than in Frankenstein, but I am really happy that I read this book. I'm really happy that I finally have a copy of it as well, and so I can annotate everything, because there are some very beautiful lines there as well, and in general very interesting thoughts, if you will. Now, what I also liked about this book is like how everything evolved, because on the one hand I found it in some parts to be a little bit like slow paced, but I feel in general the pace was pretty good. It was medium paced. It wasn't like slow paced all the time. Just sometimes when we were talking about something different that had not anything to do with like looking for Dracula or I don't know, just solving mysteries and stuff, it was a very good mysterious book and had you on edge most of the time. But there were some parts of it where I was like, okay, I mean, we could skip this a little bit or keep it shorter, because I mean, it has a decent length. It's not too long, but it's also not too short. But I feel like there were a little bit too many details in some parts that were not necessarily important in the story at the moment. But in general, it wasn't like they were always talking some random shit that hadn't anything to do with anything. Even though I said that in the beginning in one of my previous like update videos, so to say, that I find it kind of weird that we first started with like this diary of Jonathan Harker. What's his name? I feel like I never really got his name. Jonathan Harker, yeah. It was really interesting when we were doing that, and then it suddenly changed to like Mina and Lucy correspondence. But then it did make sense, and it was important to like empathize with the characters and what happened to them and stuff like that. So yeah, I will not criticize that. But still, some parts of it could have been a little bit shortened, and the story wouldn't have like missed them in a way. It would have still been a fleshed out story. It would have still been like fleshed out characters and really thought through and really coherent and cohesive. So that's my take on it. But now I will start with another classic, and I will update you as soon as I have updates.